Hemang, thank you for taking time to speak with me here today. I really enjoyed our previous discussion. You have a wonderful background, and it's always a pleasure for me, and a special pleasure, to speak with people like yourself that are so experienced, but yet you still have that sparkle in your eye, Hemang. You still enjoy this. You're still passionate about that. So this is why I was so delighted to speak with you here today. I believe the broader theme, I mean, there's so many things I could interview you on, but I think we agreed on the concept of AI native, right? So let's start there, and this may be rudimentary for some, but maybe not for others. What do you mean by AI native, and why do you see it as so important?
Yeah, so Frank, first of all, thank you for the invite. Great to be with our audience today. Also, just one quick fine print. While I'm a proud Kindle, but I'm speaking, unofficially, so these are my personal views. So I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Good, good.
So when we talk about AI native, it's just that, how we use AI for our day-to-day, either personal activities or professional activities. So what I usually say is this: just because ChatGPT has been hot for last 2 years, okay, we are using it, but it's almost like we are looking at a solution in a search of a problem, right? I like to approach things the other way and said, look, I understand what AI can do for us, and now let me see what are the problems I really have, and I apply AI to go solve that. And maybe there is not readily available solution at this point in time, but I can maybe co-create, contribute, work with others, and just make that thing happen, right? So rather than just using just tools off the shelf, sometimes they are needed, by the way, but to me, AI native is really adopting and approaching AI mindset to go solve a problem and not just go and use products, or I call it, keeping up with Joneses, right? And just
Okay. So
go and
Iman,
utilize the things.
I hate to interrupt you so early, but you're right out of the gate, you caught my attention. So you're recommending that people do maybe the opposite of what seems intuitive to them. I know many, and I've done this myself within my organization. Say, guys, find a problem. And I guess you say maybe that's not a horrible idea, but maybe the more effective approach is are you saying to understand the technology, understand, the art of the possible? What are the capabilities? And then from there, maybe back into use cases. Is that what you recommend?
Well, exactly. So the thing is this: to me, utilizing large language models, right? That's we know how to do that now, or at least we are experimenting with that. So that capability is available. So it's just, to me, it's just pretty much like plugging it in, right, in your environment. But that only does, what I call it retrofitting in our environment. So for example, AI needs data, right? AI needs understanding of your data, and then also understanding the problems and be able to devise insights and figuring out the problems. So nothing wrong in using LLMs or other capabilities. We all should be doing that. But there is a difference between visionaries who go and invent things versus if you're just going to be the consumer of technology. So that's where I'm, doing differentiation. And throughout my personal and professional careers, I always like to innovate. So, what will it take to innovate? Well, I need to go and think differently, approach situations differently, and that's how we do it, right? So to me, AI native is something along the same lines that go and say, hey, look, I understand various capabilities, and sometimes capability does not even exist. How will I create that? Who would I work with? And then approach towards that.
Okay, no, thank you so much. So, okay, so you brought up another term, and if I think of, when you think about AI, right? If you get three experts in the room, you'll get three different opinions, maybe on what it is, what it can do, what it cannot do. Is it good? Is it bad? All these things. If you mention the I word, if you mention innovation, that's a whole bunch of other fun that we can have here today. We don't have enough time, but um, what is your sense of? So then you have two opportunities. And also a dual challenge. Meaning, here's AI, and then here I am. Let's say I'm on your team or working for you, and I have some ideas on doing innovative things. Um, am I allowed, and this is not with your current employer, this is an imaginary scenario among, um, so what do am I allowed to innovate? Do you encourage this? Are you recommending others to encourage that on their team? How do they do that, but still keep awake at night so nobody breaks anything?
So yes, so the thing is, throughout my career over at IBM and Kyndryl, I've managed teams, I've been individual contributor, and I've also helped clients innovate as well. So I feel that, innovation is everybody's job, right? So I always encourage people to innovate, think differently, because that's exactly how it helps us solve problems. So I always have given license to innovate to even the most junior person on my team and said, just because Hemang says something, that does not mean it's right, and that does not mean you have to follow that. If you come up with something better way of doing things, by all means, go do that. There is no need for permission to be asked. Obviously, we run world's critical infrastructure, so we just can't go and start making changes in production environment just because we feel like doing it, right? So there is a discipline around some of that, but then there is other side where we just go and say, how do I go solve problems? And AI is one of them. Let me give you a very quick two examples. What do I mean by that? So with one of our customers, a pretty large telco, and telcos have a lot of legacy technology, architecture, et cetera, right? And some of that is on mainframe with COBOL code. While COBOL and other mainframe technologies have done wonders over many, many, many decades, but people who wrote that COBOL code have long gone from clients' organization. So they don't know what exactly this logic does. So just about a few months ago, we had Google's Gemini go and read that 10 million line COBOL code and reverse engineer business requirements document.
Wow.
So then they were like, oh, wow, this logic does all these things, right? That's an example of AI native. That capability does not always exist because we right now think that, AI or Gen AI will help us write code. Yeah, it does that. But if I don't understand the core logic, how would I know that the COBOL code, which got translated into Java or other programming languages, did it properly, right? So the key here was that just go and understand what this logic exactly did. With another telco within Europe, one of the things I'm kind of pushing them and making them very uncomfortable is that, why can't we have Gen AI create autonomous telco networks? Why would a human need to go and design and manage? Why can't Gen AI do that for me, right? So these are the things you think about and say, okay, well, how I drive innovation. And I'm using, by the way, so autonomous capability at core telco network does not exist yet. But think differently. This is what AI native is all about, that, I'm using the broad notion of AI to help me go discover problems, solve problems, and not just only go and plug existing capabilities.
No, I like that. The common thread in those two scenarios that you just discussed is, I would say, mindset related, right? So this is easy for you. It's natural for you, Hemant, because you have a, I would say, AI native mindset, and you have an innovation mindset. What are you seeing out there with the CXOs that you're meeting with day to day? Are you seeing the majority of them have a mindset like this? Is it more the minority? And how do you deal with the tougher ones?
So what I say is this, that it gives us opportunities to go and help them shape their minds and shape their opinions, right? So sometimes they don't have it because they have 10,000 other things they need to be worrying about, right? So sometimes I don't blame them for not having that. So my role is to kind of help them get to that place, right? So it is also culture. It's not just, you shape CXO's mind, but you also help shape culture, because when I'm helping clients, I want to make sure that this kind of mindset exists at grassroots level. This does not just belong to a innovation officer or data officer or technology officer. This is for even a data scientist or a data engineer or even business analyst, right? It doesn't matter what the job roles are. is that, how we effectively leverage this mindset and capabilities and help us continue to innovate.
Wonderful. Let's switch from the present to the future. Um, Now, it's anybody's guess where this goes. Wherever it goes, we know it's moving quickly. But my sense is, Hemang, that you have a point of view on where things are going and what executives should be thinking about, not just for today, but for tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. So again, like, as I was saying, that sometimes, yes, we need to go and plug existing capabilities so that we are doing things, driving our enterprises more effectively, efficiently, right? And keeping that innovation and other things going. But that's why AI native mindset, developing that today helps us in the future, because we are not just only solving problems today. As I was pointing out earlier, visionaries go and solve problems 3 years from now, right? They are solving problems of the future, not just for today's. So as we look at future, I call AI today a prisoner of data center, right? Because it requires millions and millions of watts of electricity and various other things, right? Data, storage capability, compute capability, etc., right? Now, what it does is that because all those things are not available many times outside of data centers, so as we look to the future, quantum is around the corner. And I know quantum also uses quite a bit of energy, but the thing is that it has natural ability to go solve AI problems the way it just approaches compute. Now, that's one. Other companies like IBM, Intel, and few others, they're also looking at things which are, they're calling it neuromorphic chip, which literally mimics human brain. And the power of that thing is that it reduces consumption down of electricity for the compute and storage down to kilowatt hours, not millions of watt of hours in terms of electricity consumption. So now let's think about it, that this will help us be able to bring AI truly at the edge. Because now, if I have a neuromorphic chip which only consumes kilowatt hours or even less than that, then I can embed that chip into my glasses or on my shirt or jacket, whatever I'm wearing that day, and be able to go and truly perform AI at the edge. Because now that became part of your, maybe wearable, right? And be able to do that and not always have to depend on going back into data center, look at some data, creating some inferencing, etc., but rather go and just be able to go do that, right? So how would my business, if I'm a CXO, CEO, etc., would be able to take advantage of that, right? Do I create a product which is associated with that if I'm a retailer or a manufacturer, of anything, right? Automobiles, glasses, clothing, etc. Doesn't matter, because now you'd be able to do AI native workloads truly at the edge, right? Just the way human mind does it, right? So these are the things I like for people to think about, that, where is that future headed? And if you start creating that roadmap, or even at least create some level of high framework and say, this is where I would love for me to guide my enterprise there, and then figure out, what is required, obviously, skill set, my culture, some of my data, who do I need to partner with, from a technology perspective. And sometimes, it's a startup where I need to go and partner with, right? So those are some of the things you start asking, and then look at the future and say, 3 years, 5 years down the road, here is where I want to be, and that's how I will drive to that destination.
Great, Hemang. Thank you. Great advice, great perspective. I really enjoyed this conversation, as I knew I would. Thank you for sharing with our network. I thought it'll be helpful. And let's do it again. I'm sure there are other topics we could speak on, my friend.
Oh, there are tons of topics we can speak. Pleasure is all mine, and I'm also encouraging our audience here. If they wanted to talk to either one of us, they should feel free to reach out, and we collaborate. That's how we learn from each other, and that's how we will innovate.
Thank you. Thanks again, my friend.